for me, and I welcome their hatred.
What is up, everybody? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. This is a college football media brand. Ian, how are you? My co-host.
Good to see you. I'm doing real good here. Weather got a bit chilly. It's getting colder down here, so I'm trying to warm up.
Nice. Yeah, sorry for the jumbled intro here. I'm just a little tired. I've been working the last 2 days, pretty long hours, so I've been pretty busy. But yeah, it's getting cold here too. It's I'm supposed to be going up north tomorrow, like an hour and a half away, and it's like I think it was going to be in like the 20s or something like that. So should be a pretty cold day for me tomorrow. So let's get into it. So today's show is very quick. It's just a brief show because hey, there's no games this weekend. Well, there is a Army-Navy game, but we're not really going to talk too much about it. We'll give our prediction, but mainly the focus here is a debate about the Heisman. Now, there are other finalists, but really we're just narrowing it down to two that have the highest likelihood of winning. Right now, the two favorites are Travis Hunter from Colorado and Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. So what we're going to do is have a debate between the two finalists, and Ian's going to take up Travis Hunter's side. I'm going to take up Ashton Jeanty's side, and then we'll discuss it and just lay out the information for all of you to decide. With that being said, Ian, you have the floor.
Yes. So I drew the straw of Travis Hunter, and going through the statistics and all that, the best comparison people, and rightfully have given, has been to Charles Woodson, who won the Heisman in 1997. He was the last sort of dual athlete player, both defensive back and wide receiver, to win the Heisman. And his statistics, Travis Hunter's statistics, are much superior to Charles Woodson. Not saying he's better in that sense, because Woodson played on a much run-heavy offense on running back. And clearly Woodson was a very good DB. But it's worth noting that Travis Hunter, again, he's playing two positions, as a cornerback and as a receiver. He leads the Power Four with 14 touchdown receptions as a defensive back, mostly. And he ranks second in receiving yards per game in all of FBS Division I. And also on the defensive side, he's been just as good. Ranks third in the Power Four with pass deflections and interceptions. He has 15 pass deflections and 4 interceptions. He's also the first player to have over 150 yards receiving and 4 pass breakups in a game. So that's that was considered the Heisman moment for him. And he's the only player during that week to receive both offensive and defensive player of the week that season. And another thing to note, too, all the conferences have come out with their All-American lists and players of the years. Travis Hunter unanimously was chosen as the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year and was first team All Big 12 on offense for wide receiver and defense on first team defense for the Big 12. So he's doing stuff that we haven't seen in well over almost 30 years, and still stuff we've never seen. We've never seen this type of proficiency from a wide receiver while also being a defensive back, where there's not really that much of a dip in, each side. Travis Hunter is still has been very locked down when playing on both sides of the ball. Still averages, he has over 32 tackles as well, and the 4 interceptions he returned for 65 yards. He even has a fumble recovery and a rushing touchdown. So he is really the Swiss Army knife of college football, where no matter where you have plugged him in, he usually finds a way to hurt you.
Do you have more, or do you want me to jump in?
You can jump in.
Okay. So that is a definitely great argument. And I am not denying that Travis Hunter is pretty much a unicorn. Like, there is a lot of, stats and information that you can provide that clearly
one thing to
states.
note about Maurice, I'm sorry. I made sure, deliberately sure, I did not bring up snaps as a statistic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That is a very poor argument for why some guys should win the Heisman.
That's fair. No, I appreciate that. And I agree. The thing I'll say, let me get into Jeanty's stuff, and then we'll go back and forth debating the intricacies of these two players. Okay, so Ashton Jeanty, he junior at Boise State, led the team to a 12-1 record, a Mountain West Conference championship, a first-round bye in the playoff, and a number 3 seed overall. Their only loss came against the number 1 overall seed, Oregon, in Outson. The stats: 344 carries, 2,497 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7.3 yard average, 36.2% of his yardage came on 4% of his carries, or 13 carries, which were some of his long runs. He went up against UNLV in the Mountain West Championship game, and also a game earlier in the year. At the time, UNLV was the 10th ranked rushing defense and was only allowing 3.2 yards per carry. And during that game, Jeanty had 32 carries for 209 yards and a touchdown for an average of 6.5 yards. Oregon being the number 1 overall seed in the CFP, number 1 ranked team nearly all year. They're the 35th ranked rushing defense by the end of the season. They gave up only 4.01 yards per carry, 126.1 yards per game average. Jeanty went for 192 yards, 3 TDs, averaged 7.7 yards in that game, and had a long touchdown run of 70 yards. In 2023, he had 1,916 total yards and 19 total TDs. So he's not just a one-hit wonder. He's done this for 2 years. He is 90 yards away from second all-time season rushing record, all-time. And not only that, if he gets a couple of games, maybe he gets it in one game, but the record by Barry Sanders is 2,628. That is about, what is that? That's like, it's actually not even that much. It's 143 or something like that. So that's not that much yardage. He could break it in the playoff game that he has coming up. Let's do some crosstalk here with the other thing I wanted to mention with Jeanty, his PFF Pro Football Focus grade is a 97.1. At least it was before this last game. I don't know what it is now. I couldn't find it anywhere. Was at the time was the all-time best for FBS running backs ever, like since they've gone back and done grading. In the PFF era, Jeanty's 144 now. 144 forced missed tackles is the most ever. He had 1,882 yards after contact. And that is second most. What is it? That's the most all time. And they've been tracking that since 2014. Second most all time is 1,355. So he's outpaced that by over 500 yards, just yards after contact. Let's do the crosstalk now here. So Ian, now give me your counter to some of the stuff that I mentioned about Jeanty, and then I'll counter your stuff about Travis.
So the one thing, and this has been a sticking point, is that as much as maybe it is not necessarily viable, you can make the argument that Travis Hunter has played against more tough competition being in the Power 4 in the Big 12 than Jeanty may have. Colorado has, I believe it was like one in the top 25 in strength of schedule. And while it's nowhere, I will admit, obviously, Colorado's is nowhere near like an SEC level schedule. They still, they had to play teams like Utah, who was, ranked at the beginning of the year. They lost to Kansas State. They had some tough. They had Kansas, Tech, all the Arizona, who was potentially sneaking in to a Big 12 title. So it wasn't as much of maybe a cupcake as many people thought. Comparing that, it was definitely in the Mountain West. It was Boise State's to lose. They went undefeated in conference play, and UNLV was really the only threat, and they dispatched them pretty quickly. So I would say that would be the one thing that Travis Hunter does have on Jeanty, is that he's definitely played tougher competition and has played well in tougher competition. It's not like when the team got tough, he shriveled. He's been consistently good at covering the players, and especially been the go-to target in that offense.
Okay. A couple of things about Hunter, and specifically, let me get into a little bit here. So, a lot of Hunter's stats near the end of the year, the last two games specifically, was a lot of stat padding. And it was in other games besides these last two, but the Utah game and the Oklahoma State game. The Utah game, they were up by at least 2 scores, and there was like 2 minutes left, and they were ready to close out that game. And they give a handoff to Hunter. Clearly stat padding there. It wasn't like this was in the middle of a game flow. This was like the game was basically over. If they just run it a couple times, the game is over. But they specifically run it to him, hoping that he's going to get a touchdown. And you know what? Granted, that team should stop him, but it does look like stat padding. And then in the Oklahoma State game, they were up 45-0 going into the fourth quarter, and he got his last touchdown. He got 3 TDs, but that last one was definitely very much a stat padding touchdown. I will also say that as far as Hunter, he is one of the better wide receivers and one of the better cornerbacks in the country. That is not deniable. But I will say he is not the best at his position at either. And while Jeanty is on the verge of setting all-time records, besting arguably the best running back that has ever played the position. So if he is going to top Barry Sanders is the end-all be-all with running backs. If he tops that, there's very little argument. Yes, I know competition. You'll say Mountain West. And then I'll just counter with what he did against Oregon and what he did against UNLV, which are 2 really good defenses. And, and he put up really big numbers against both. With Travis Hunter, I will argue when you compared him to Woodson, Woodson's a Hall of Famer. Travis Hunter may or may not be a Hall of Famer. We won't know till maybe 15 years from now. In Woodson's last year at Michigan, he had more interceptions in less games. He only played 11 games to get that number, and he got 7 interceptions for 11 games. So he had way more interceptions than Travis Hunter did, and did it in less games. And then also in the Kansas State game, he was injured, so he didn't even play that much. So that was their best, the best team that they played all year. And he didn't even play that much in that game. So you kind of throw that one out. And then not only do you throw that one out, but then he also avoided 3 of the better teams in the Big 12. He did not play Arizona State. He did not play BYU, and he didn't play Iowa State. So as much as he does have per se better competition, that better competition in the Big 12 is weighted if you play those teams. But because he did not play those teams, you're kind of using that weight without actually getting the influence of those statistical deviations there, where it's like if you don't have those in his stat grouping, you're not actually able to show that he was going against better competition. You're using the fact that the conference is better because of those 3 teams. But if you take those 3 out, the rest of those teams that he played, that strength of schedule, I don't have it on me, but I know that strength of schedule is a lot weaker because of that. And so I know it's better than Boise State's, but still, I feel like with all this information, all I'm going to boil it down to is, Ashton Jeanty is doing stuff that we've never seen before. And Travis Hunter is doing stuff that has been seen in the last 30 years. But like literally, there's only been like one other player that's about to do what Jeanty's about to do that has happened before. So I don't know. It's very hard. I at this point, I feel like Jeanty's not going to win. And I feel like Hunter's going to win. I think just there's too much PR for Hunter and Colorado. I think it's too hard for a group of 5 player to try to win it. He's definitely deserving. They're both deserving. And I'm not going to deny that. Like, they both deserve to win. I just feel that Jeanty is, just a bigger threat. And I just feel like I don't know what it is. It just, because I like Hunter a lot because I can see both his skills in being a really good corner, and he's a tall corner, so it's unique in that way. And then he's also a playmaker on offense, and he's put up a lot of points and a lot of yardage in as a wide receiver. I don't know. Jeanty's going to have at least probably 30 touchdowns. That's a huge number, and if he breaks the all-time record, that's the all-time record really is what sets it off for me for anything. Like, breaking Barry Sanders' record is just you have to reward that somehow. But Ian, you go ahead.
Yeah, and I will say definitely right. Jeanty has been doing stuff we haven't seen, but in the same extent too, same with Hunter, because yes, Woodson was doing stuff like this, and maybe Hunter is not good defensively, but we never saw them become like the game breaker on both positions. While Hunter may not be the best at each individual, and you cannot tell me taking Hunter away from that team would really cost Colorado some more games, because he was the primary target on for Shedeur Sanders passing. You knew instinctively, and that was the thing too with Hunter, is they knew it. The defenses knew it as well, was to double cover him, and you would still find a way. And there was some creative routes or decoys they would run. But Hunter had a lot of fantastic catches this year that were in really tight coverage and really showed his athleticism. And same with defense. He did a very good job covering. They would put their best wide receiver on him or try to isolate him, and Hunter would rise to the challenge. I don't remember too many times that Hunter was just flat out beat on a route in any of these games. So I do agree that Hunter definitely may not be the best at each division, but I think he's the most versatile, because like I said, I feel like Hunter, you remove him from the equation and that Colorado team is looking a lot more lost without him, because they wouldn't have a primary go-to receiver, and he couldn't have a guy that would be able to take away an entire half of the field if he's covering one of the receivers.
Now, if you took Jeanty off of Boise State and put Travis Hunter on Boise State, is Boise State still a playoff team?
So I'm pretty much trading Jeanty for Hunter.
Yeah, like if you swapped them.
I definitely think Boise State would be better defensively, because they would have that coverage, and that was the one thing, is that they can at least defensively pass coverage. It wasn't terrible. We've talked about it this year, but it wasn't like superb. You add Hunter in that equation, and that's really tough for teams to, if you can't run and you got a guy on the left side or right side of the field that's just going to be a vacuum or deflecting these passes away, that'll be tough. And Matson was a very capable quarterback with Boise State. Hunter is that type of receiver where you could be a good enough quarterback, you throw it in there, he's going to find a way to catch it. So I would say, I would probably say maybe Boise State, maybe one more loss because their offense is predicated on the run, but I don't feel like they would like lose the Mount. I still think they would win the Mountain West.
Yeah. Do you think they would? Well, no. So you're saying that. Well, what about if Jeanty's on Colorado? You know, they've got Shador. They would have Jeanty. They have decent wide receivers outside of Travis Hunter.
Yeah, that's true, especially Horn Jr., USF shout out.
Yeah.
I would say if you put Jeanty, that does make that Colorado offense more dangerous because not only do you got to, because sure, Sanders
game. They don't run the ball at all.
They don't, but if they don't have a capable running back to do that. Yeah. So if you plug Jeanty into that, now you got more to worry about. The thing would be, though, is that they would force Sanders to throw the ball, but that's asking for trouble because he could just scramble out of the pocket and run it himself. So it would kind of be a mirror of the kind of Johnny Manziel-esque Texas A&M offense where either we run it or Johnny's going to run it if he can't find anybody open. There's no way you're going to stop this.
Yeah. All right. So what do you think is going to happen?
I think, man, out of all the Heisman races, this is probably the closest to call because, like you said, I wish we could just like cut it in half like a birthday cake and just give it to both of them. Because they are the two best. In my opinion, they're the two best players in the country.
Yeah, and it's not even close. Like the gap between them and everyone else is quite severe. So
yeah, and because they're both doing things that we haven't seen ever. Like we've never seen a player like Travis Hunter, at least as good as he has shown to be, and as athletic as he is. And we've never seen a running back like Jeanty, who can, no matter what you do on the box, he's going to find a way to score 3 touchdowns and 150 yards per game. It's. I just wish like Hunter did it last year, had a season like this last year, and Jeanty did it this year, so they both could get a Heisman. Yeah, but it's not the world we live in. I think. Oh man, if I had to take it, I feel like they would give it to Jeanty for the fact that he is the best running back in the country. That would be where I think they would sway the vote.
I mean, I want Jeanty to win. I do. I'm more in his camp, but I don't know. Just the stuff I've seen on Twitter, it just looks like it favors Travis Hunter, and even the Vegas odds are in his favor. But Vegas odds can be wrong, so it's no guarantee that he definitely wins it. But we'll see. Let's do one last thing. Let's do the Army-Navy game, and then we'll head out of here. Okay, give me your thoughts on Army-Navy.
Yeah, so this year definitely, I mean, the Army-Navy game, it's one of the best, if not the best tradition in all of college football. You can't tell me you don't get emotional just watching the game, especially the intros. They're so freaking awesome when the teams take the field and they have their respective, aircrafts flying over. Anyways, besides the pageantry, this year is actually kind of unique because both teams are really freaking good.
Yeah.
And both are going to find a way to beat you. And they play very similar style of offenses. But the interesting thing is that, I mean, Daly has been a machine at Army. It has been really tough to see anybody try to stop him. But Navy's built for that kind of running attack with the quarterback and the option. And Horvath has actually thrown more touchdown passes than Daly. But I mean, Daly's had 29, rushing touchdowns compared to the 8 passing. I feel like Army has the better. Both of them have great defenses, but with Army having the better offense, I feel like that'll be what puts Army over the top in this one. I think it'll be close. It's going to be a typical down and dirty Army-Navy game, but I'm going to take the Black Knights winning. I'm going to say West Point sings last. Let's go 24-20 Army.
So I'm a little biased because I was in Army ROTC for a year. at USF. And but I will say this Army team is really good. I mean, they only had that one loss to Notre Dame, and it was really a blowout. I didn't even really watch the whole recap there because whatever recap I saw when we were reviewing those games, it was kind of a limited recap, so I didn't get a true understanding of what happened in that game. I wish I could have watched that whole thing and I'd be able to better tell you what happened. But I will say in the other games that I've seen of Army, you know, Daly runs that offense like a machine, and it's very efficient. You know, he's a magician back there, being able to control the offense. You know, he is fluid with everything. He's very athletic. He can throw when needed, but he definitely runs the ball more than passing it. And they, I feel like they can score at least 28 points in this. And I like Navy a lot, but I feel like they have some weaknesses. Their defense is good. I think I like Army's defense a little bit better just because their secondary is really good, and I think that's what sets them apart. So if Navy does try to pass a little bit in this game, I feel like their secondary is going to be ready for it and may get a pick or two. And if that's the case, then that'll give Army the ball, which they love having the ball because their time of possession is vast in almost every game they play. So I'm going to say Army wins like 28-17. Okay, that's the show. Check out haterradio.com for all of our articles. There's one on the playoff. There's one about the Florida Gators and just like the recap of the season and the momentum building from that. And then you can catch us on all the socials, X, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Just look up Hater Radio to come right up. And then, Ian, what are your socials real quick?
Yeah, it's at Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. It's at G_Gator_G.
So like, subscribe, comment, follow, do all the things, help us out in the algorithm. We greatly appreciate it. We're up to 1,600 subscribers on YouTube. We really appreciate all of you keeping up with college football with us because we love this sport and we love conveying that to you guys. So thank you for everything. Thank you for the support. We'll talk to you later. Enjoy the Heisman ceremony and the Army-Navy game. Sunday, we're not going to do a show. I may do like a recap, little video, just a little quick of what happened, but not much because there's obviously just two things happened. So we're not going to do a regular show on Sunday. But we'll be back Wednesday. Wait, is there games next week? Yes, there are. The playoff games. Good. Yeah. Of course. So there's going to be playoff games on Friday and Saturday of next week. And then also Florida's bowl game. So we'll talk about those next Wednesday. So no show Sunday, but Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. All right. Take care, y'all.